Hello, and today we're going to be going over and ranking every team's free agency so far in the NFL. As you can see, we are going to be doing it based on where the team is at, like as far as like if they're contending, if they're rebuilding. It's going to be judged kind of accordingly as far as that goes. Cap space cuts aren't going to be judged too harshly, but they will be considered. I mean, like if you get rid of a contract that's been hurting your team, or you're rebuilding and freeing up a bunch of cap space from aging players, it's going to help. It just needed to be done sometimes. Obviously, this is all going to be my opinion. I'm not a guru. I can't see the future, and not many people can. It's not really going to help. And this, and it probably will make me look like an idiot. But anyways, getting us started here. We're going to go to the Cardinals. They added Tyler Algier. That's a big signing. I mean, it's going to be interesting with James Conner's injury to see how exactly that plays out. With him, Trey Benson, see if Connor comes back and is ready to go. It's going to be interesting to see how they use that, if Benson's even going to get much time at all with that backfield, honestly. Or if it'll be someone else having to take a step back. Gardner Minshew is probably the backup behind Brissett. Their other signings don't move me a ton, but there's some decent ones in there for sure. Didn't do much as far as re-signs, makes sense. And they released Kyler Murray, which, I mean, they needed to at this point. They're trying to move forward, figure out who their next guy is going to be. Probably not this year. It's probably Jacoby Brissett bridging for whoever until they get there. It's going to be a matter of seeing all of that. Alright, so with that being said, we're going to take the Cardinals, and honestly, everything considered, I'm probably going to put that in C tier. I mean, it's just been kind of decent free agency overall. Moving on, we got the Falcons here. Honestly, it's been a bit of a strange offseason for them. They tag Kyle Pitts, I get, keep him around. He's actually started to produce a little bit towards the end of last year. If that can really start to be a consistent thing and they use him like that, that is a grand addition. Obviously, them adding Tua is a pretty big thing. It'll be good if Penix isn't good to go at the start of the season. We'll see who ends up taking that spot. But the move that didn't make a lot of sense to me is releasing Darnell Mooney to get Jahan Dotson. And, like, it's just like, I don't feel like the receiver room is great outside of London, and Mooney was probably the best they had. Jahan Dotson now is alright. It just doesn't make a ton of sense to me is all. Their other signings, I mean, Samson Ebukam isn't the worst addition. Azeez Ojulari, I mean, you're at least bringing some edge rushers with everything that's going on with James Pierce. Don't really know there. Some solid depth and stuff there. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of a offseason where I feel like they did some interesting things. And with that being said, this is another C tier. Like I said, they're just some moves that make sense and I like, and some that don't make a lot of sense. It just feels like a very decent to mediocre free agency so far. I mean, it's just tagging Pitts. I like it. It gives somebody back, but the whole Mooney and Jahan Dotson essentially, they're like swapping out. It saves some cap, but I don't. Moving on, we got the Ravens here, and there's all that stuff going on. Obviously, they signed Trey Hendrickson, and I mean, they had everything going on with Max Crosby, backed out of that trade. I don't know. It's just weird. Physical, they knew that he was going to fail. They back out. I don't know. But Trey Hendrickson, obviously a great addition. John Simpson, I don't hate for addressing that one a little bit, obviously, with losing Tyler Linderbaum. Chidobe Awuzie, I don't hate the signing. I don't think it's like the biggest deal, but definitely like a decent player to pick up. Re-signing Tyler Huntley, definitely the best backup option they had. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking with Cooper Rush when they were doing that, but yeah, overall, some solid signings. All right, moving on to the Bills here. We're going to start off by looking at these trades. DJ Moore for a second. I mean, getting a fifth back with DJ Moore too. Overall, I honestly don't hate this move for the Bills at all. In fact, I really like it. I mean, DJ Moore has proven he can be a 1 before. See if he can do it again. And the Bills have not drafted well at receiver as of late at all, so I really don't hate sending a second. You need to get somebody. It's worthwhile, and considering they were probably going to release Teron Johnson, getting any value, even if it's just a pick swap, you take. As far as their actual ads, I do like adding Bradley Chubb. Gives you something off the edge, and then you needed to address safety. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Geno Stone. Maybe one of those guys works out. I think it's worth the attempt at least, and then I like the Connor McGovern re-sign, of course. Definitely solid to get him back in the mix there. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to actually put the Bills in the B tier. Like I said, I like the DJ Moore trade. I think it's a little bit worse than the Ravens, just lost a little bit. Didn't get anything as quality as Trey Hendrickson, but the moves the Bills have made have been pretty solid, and I think, even if it was a slight overpay, getting DJ Moore very worth. And who knows if it even will look like an overpay by the time we get into next season. Moving on now to the Carolina Panthers. I honestly like what they did this offseason quite a lot. They add Jalen Phillips and Devin Lloyd. Those are the two big ones. They obviously gave Jalen Phillips a lot of money, but I think it's worth taking the shot on it. Obviously, there's the injury concerns, but it's a very quality edge rusher, I feel like. And also add Devin Lloyd, who at least one point last year, he was in legitimate Defensive Player of the Year conversations, especially for not that crazy of a price tag. I think that's just great additions overall. Adding John Mechie and Rasheed Walker to the offense, too. Gotta love building up the offensive line. I think even their depth pieces they signed, I mean, or just maybe not as high end starters with Isaiah Simmons, Caleb Evans. Like, I just really feel like what they did this season, most of these moves are very good. Didn't go crazy with the resigns, but the resigns they made are fine. Not anything they cut makes sense. Overall, I just really like how the Panthers have moved, especially when it comes to addressing the defensive side of the ball this offseason so far. So with everything being said there, I'm actually going to put the Panthers in S tier. I think they've had a fantastic offseason so far. I really like the moves they made, especially the Jalen Phillips and Devin Lloyd signings. I think those are going to be key additions to their defense and will really help things out moving forward here. Moving on to the Bears here, they've made some moves. I mean, moving off DJ Moore makes sense for them. They already have Rome Odunze, Luther Burden. It just kind of didn't really fit in anymore. Getting Garrett Bradbury, great replacement, honestly, for losing their center. Moving on, getting Garrett Bradbury right away just for a fifth, I think is a very worthwhile move. Jedrick Wills signing while already having, re-signing Braxton Jones is an interesting one. I'm not quite sure that one's going to pan out. Releasing Tremaine Edmonds and then bringing Devin Bush in, that was a move that didn't make the most sense to me. I do like the Kobe Bryant signing there at safety. Overall, I mean, I think they made a lot of solid moves this offseason. The only ones that are like at all confusing to me is exactly where they're trying to go with releasing Tremaine Edmonds and then bringing in Devin Bush. I mean, I don't know how I feel about it overall. And then signing Jedrick Wills and re-signing Braxton Jones. I'm not exactly sure. Is that just banking that on health for one of them? Is that just so you have the depth on the O-line? I'm not exactly sure. But overall, pretty solid offseason, all things considered. Just a couple of concerns with like the front seven. Overall, I've liked how the Bears have moved this offseason. I'm between B and A for them. I feel like the DJ Moore trade was really good for them with this position they're in. They did good considering everything they're dealing with. You know, their center retiring, trying to make sure they shore up that offensive line. Some solid moves on the defense. Yeah, I think overall it's pretty good. I think it's been a solid free agency period for the Chicago Bears so far. All right, next up here we have the Bengals. As you can see, they have not done a whole lot this offseason, but the moves they did make are decent. I mean, bringing Orlando Brown back makes sense. Try to keep the solid pieces you do have on your O-line. Brian Cook's a fine signing. Boye Mafe, again, very similarly fine. I mean, I like taking the chance with Jonathan Allen there. Definitely a good addition to a struggling Bengals defense. I mean, it's been an issue. At least they're addressing it somewhat. It's all right overall here. Just not as much as you'd hope for a team that performed how they did last season. Yeah, for the Bengals, I'm just going to put them right in C tier. They just haven't done a lot this offseason. I mean, the signings they made are solid, but just got to do more when you performed like they did last season. Moving on to the Browns here, I mean, it's been an interesting offseason. They traded the pick 139 for Titus Howard. I mean, not the greatest lineman, but it's at least addressing the O-line in some way with all the pieces they've lost there. Then they also signed Tevin Jenkins, Elton Jenkins, and Zion Johnson. I mean, it's a lot of decent linemen they're adding. Which, I mean, hey, maybe it's an upgrade for them. I know a lot of their O-line contracts are expiring, so I don't hate it. Quincy Williams signing's all right. The tender on Ronnie Hickman makes sense. Overall, I honestly think they've had a pretty decent to solid offseason so far. So I'm going to take the Browns, and I'm going to go ahead and put them in B tier, honestly. Like I said, just solid. They address O-line. I think that was the biggest thing they absolutely needed to address. In free agency, they'll need to look to the draft probably for a wide receiver, something to help out more on offense. But overall, I like what they're doing so far this free agency. All right, moving on to the Cowboys here. They've honestly made a lot of trades this offseason. Well, 3, but I don't hate getting Rashawn Gary. Gives you a solid edge rusher. You desperately needed help there after trading Micah last season. Still very weird overall. Osaya Odizigwa. I am sorry I butcher that name. I struggle to say it every time, even though I've heard it a bunch. But for a third, it's fair enough. I mean, you got solid D tackle still. And then Solomon Thomas to trade up a bit in the 7th is kind of whatever. I do like their additions, specifically of Kobe Durant and Jalen Thompson. I think those are very nice additions to help shore up the secondary. And then the best as far as re-signs, I mean, they get Javonte Williams, they get George Pickens on the tag. I think everything they did as far as re-signs make a lot of sense. I think they're perfect, and they can kind of just keep going off of that. Overall, I really like what the Cowboys have been doing this offseason. I mean, I don't think it's like fantastic, but it's definitely solid overall. They've addressed some needs. They've re-signed some players they've needed to re-sign, but then the trades get a little confusing. It feels like a fourth is probably more than they had to send for Rashawn Gary. Osa, I mean, they paid him a ton, and now trading him for a third. I mean, it's not the worst compensation. And then, yeah, like I said, the Solomon Thomas trade, I don't have a whole lot to say on. All right, so I'm gonna go and put the Cowboys probably in B tier. I like a lot of the moves they made. The re-signs make sense, but some things do feel like a little bit of overpay. Or, for example, like the Rashawn Gary trade, I don't feel like they had to give up a fourth to get him. I don't know. That could just be speculation, though. All right, now moving on to the Broncos, and yeah, they just kind of re-signed everybody. Released Dre Greenlaw. It just makes sense. I mean, they were an AFC Championship team. Retaining a lot of your guys isn't a bad call. I mean, yeah, I don't really hate any of it. It just they didn't do a lot to improve, so it can't be that great of an offseason. Or free agency, just a lot of retaining guys, which is needed. And for retaining all those, I mean, I'm honestly probably just gonna throw the Broncos in C tier. Like I said, they just kept a lot of guys. Not a bad choice. It's just hard to put it any higher when they don't really do much to get better as a contending team. Well, as I was editing this, the Broncos went ahead and traded for Jalen Waddle after doing about nothing this offseason. So, yeah, I'd say that grade's a little bit off now. I mean, they did the only like really complaint I had. I think this moves them probably up to like an A tier offseason for me. I mean, maybe you could argue they paid a little bit much, but really it's a first and a little bit under a third, if I remember correctly, because it's just a fourth round pick swap, as you can see there. So I mean, this is just like, I mean, it's a back end first for a receiver that'll come in and be a number one, and it really has the skill set. I feel like that roster's been missing. I feel like they've had a lot of guys, but essentially the hope I think here is that Waddle is what they have been wanting Troy Franklin to be, really a stretch the field deep threat. I mean, having both, you can still do a lot there with. Obviously, they got Marvin Mims and Cortland Sutton already. So I'm assuming that's kind of how that's going to play out. But yeah, no, this is a major move for the Broncos to go out and make, and had to be after I already had this almost ready to go. So I had to record this segment a bit after that I actually started editing this video. But yeah, Broncos at the end of this, remember, they are 8s here, just because this Waddle trade is actually pretty big for them. Moving on to the Lions here. I mean, they traded away David Montgomery. Value for his return isn't too bad. Scruggs is 128 and a 7th. I mean, I don't hate that trade for him. I don't necessarily love it because I don't know how Scruggs really fits in. I mean, I guess they're trying to place Glasgow. They also released Taylor Decker. They're losing a lot on the O-line, I feel like, which is definitely not a position you want to be, especially when what really made them work as well as it was a good run game. I do like bringing Isaiah Pacheco in as your new probably running back too. I am not moved by a lot of their signings, honestly, though. Their re-signs are fine. I just feel like this isn't the type of offseason you really would hope for a team that is trying to really get back in contention. I think those releases are really going to hurt them as much as they probably did need done. It's just a very rough spot because, I mean, you narrowly missed the playoffs last year. You really have, like, title hopes if everybody stays healthy, so... Like, I don't know. I just don't love this offseason overall for the Lions, honestly. So, yeah, for the Lions, I'm honestly... Yeah, I think I'm going to have to put them D tier. Like, I don't hate, like, everything they're trying to do as far as process, but I really feel like a lot of these things are very concerning for them for a team that wants to be right back in contention next year, especially losing some offensive linemen. I don't think the signings make up for it or the Drew Scruggs being added, but yeah, so I'm going to have to put it for D tier for now. I mean, they could still make something happen in the draft, but let's see. All right, moving on. We got the Packers here. I mean, I don't hate getting rid of Rashawn Gary for a fourth. I mean, you were looking to probably cut him if you didn't trade him anyway, and getting a fourth, I mean, that feels like good value. And then sending Colby Wooden for Zaire Franklin. Now, as a Colts fan, I know Zaire Franklin played worse last year, but this still seems like a very worthwhile trade for the Packers. I mean, it's a linebacker that could maybe be solid for you at least. He's proven that he could be before, even if it was a bit more rough of a season last year. I also like the addition of Benjamin St. Juste. I mean, I think that's solid. You cut Elton Jenkins and Nate Hobbs, too. I mean, it's just two players that getting paid more than the production they were giving you. So overall, I think this is a solid offseason for the Packers. I don't think it's anything insane, but it's definitely just a few like quality moves here and there. So, and then yeah, re-signs aren't anything crazy either. So with that all being said, I think I'm going to drop the Packers probably. It's definitely C or B. I think probably C. Yeah, we'll go C. Just not any crazy additions, just a few solid moves here and there. St. Just is a fine addition for getting rid of Nate Hobbs. Gets you something new. Was good last year with Jesse Mintor on that Chargers defense. So I mean, there's some hope there. And then Gary trade is solid overall. C. All right, moving on to the Texans. As you can see, we got some trades here. I like them bringing in David Montgomery. I think that's very good, especially with releasing Joe Mixon. You're kind of trying to figure out who your back's gonna be, and with that, you don't really have to worry about it for this next season. That's solid to add him for sure. Getting a fifth out of Titus Howard's not the worst. Your O-line was bad. And then, of course, this trade here, where I didn't even know about it until I was getting this video around, where they sent a 6th and 28 for punter Kai Kroger and a 28 7th. I just thought that one was interesting. Probably not going to affect the ranking too much, but it's cool to throw in there. As far as the ads I got in free agency, I like Reed Blankenship, and if Braden Smith can stay on the field, that's going to be a good addition for him, but that's always the concern with Braden Smith, or at least has been. But yeah, no, I like Reed Blankenship. I really feel like it helps bring things together. And then as far as our re-signs, bringing Danielle Hunter back, making sure that edge rushing duo stays intact is definitely a great move. It's been a big reason why their defense can be so good. And all of their other re-signs I honestly like a pretty decent amount too, other than maybe like Ed Ingram, but even then, it's at least somebody you can play on the O-line if you don't find much else. So overall, yeah, I like what the Texans have been doing this offseason. So with all of that, we're going to take the Texans and we're going to probably place them probably in A tier, maybe B. I think A. Because they've honestly made a lot of good moves. They've addressed their O-line a little bit. They very much needed to. And then Reed Blankenship's a good signing. I like adding David Montgomery. They just made a lot of really good moves that helps address the needs they've had. I think A tier fits for the Texans. All right, moving on to my favorite team now, the Colts. I'm going to be real. I don't love a lot of anything we did this offseason. We got Zaire Franklin going for Colby Wooden. I mean, I just don't see how that's the best we could do, especially when our D tackle room is honestly pretty filled out already. I mean, I get looking ahead a little bit, but, we signed Derek Nottie. We also already have Adebore on the roster. We have Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner in there still. And then Pittman and a 7th for a 6th, just a pick swap. That felt a little bit strange, honestly. Like, I get the contract was bad. I mean, maybe that is the best that was out there. It's just kind of tough to know for sure, I feel like, if there was anything better. As far as the actual signings, I mean, Arden Key, I don't mind bringing in at all. Michael Clemens is all right. Safeties, I mean, Jonathan Owens, Juwania Thomas, I mean, they're okay. I don't love that. That's what we're working with opposite of Cam Bynum. And then for the re-signs, let's get Alec Pierce. Honestly, I don't hate it that much. It's definitely a little bit of an overpay, but you're going to have to overpay to keep him. The one I have an issue with is Daniel Jones. There's no reason to give him $44 million a year, especially over multiple years, even if it is just 2, for, about 7 good games. And then he's coming off a torn Achilles. It's just tough to say that that's actually going to be a good idea without being extremely proven. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's that good of a deal, as well as he was playing last season. And with that being said, I'm throwing the Colts right in the D tier. I do like them retaining Alec Pierce. I do like a couple of their pickups. But overall, it's just a lot of overpaying, and it feels like a lot of quick judgment and not like a lot of time reflecting. I don't know if that's actually how it played out, but that's just kind of what it looks like from this perspective. And that Daniel Jones contract, I feel like, is just a disaster waiting to happen. Because even if he does play well, I mean, it's still $44 million a year for an unproven situation here. There's just a lot of ways it could go wrong. All right, next up we got the Jaguars, and the only free agent addition they've made is Chris Rodriguez. They've lost a lot of guys in free agency, but then they also brought back some decent guys. I like Monteric Brown coming back. Honestly, most of the re-signs are just like fine. Chris Rodriguez to be the backup to Baishal Tootin makes some sense. So yeah, overall, I mean, I just don't see how you go from the team you're at last year. Don't re-sign a lot of guys. Don't go out, spend it all. Try to get ahead in the AFC South, where there's quite a few teams that feel like they might be able to bounce back next year, or it might be another instance where the division is wide open and you can make a play, and this is all that's happened so far. All right, for the Jags, I'm probably going to throw them in D tier above the Colts. I mean, at least they're re-signing some people, not overpaying really, but yeah, just for the position they're in, they're looking to contend, they just haven't really done anything to try to capitalize on that. Now, on to the Chiefs here. I mean, a lot of people are really liking the Chiefs offseason. I'm not liking it as much as I feel like I see more people talking about it. I mean, Trent McDuffie getting a first back and some other draft capital, not that bad of value, frees up a lot of cap. They also add Kenneth Walker. I like the signing. They add Cater Coe and Aloni Gilman to kind of try to fill for the players they're losing on defense, but I don't feel like they've done that well. Getting rid of Juwan Taylor, I mean, yeah, that was just too much cap for a pretty much consistent problem on the O-line. Their re-signs are fine. Drew Tranquill, Travis Kelce going back for another year is fine. I just don't feel like they're really replacing everything they've lost in free agency on defense. They're going to have a pretty good draft to really be back, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And we'll see what they do at tackle opposite of Josh Simmons. All that being said, I still think the Chiefs had a pretty solid offseason. I think I'm going to put them B tier for now. I think around here, I mean, I feel similarly to their offseason as I do like the Bills or Cowboys here. Overall, just a lot of good moves. It's just there's still a couple of concerns in there. All right, on to the Raiders. Obviously, there's a whole situation with the Ravens backing out of that Max Crosby trade, but the Raiders had so much cap that it doesn't really matter for them as far as free agency. I do like them going out and getting Teron Johnson in the pick swap. It's definitely an upgrade at corner for them, and they just had to do a pick swap. Even if they were going to release him, I doubt Teron Johnson was just going to sign with the Raiders if they don't go out and get him. And then as far as their signings, I really like Tyler Linderbaum. I like Jalen Naylor, even though I don't think he's like the greatest option at receiver. Just getting some solid players, and then even on defense too. I like Kobe Dean and Quay Walker pickups. Quiddy Pay's all right. They also brought back Malcolm Kuntz, re-signing Eric Stokes. I like a lot of what they did, and I think it's going to be good to kind of get this infrastructure around. I mean, I will presume Fernando Mendoza. I mean, yeah, I think it's a good starting point to try to set up around your new quarterback coming in, which I like. So with that, we're going to take the Raiders, and I'm going to probably put them up in A tier. I like a lot of what they're doing. They made some great signings. I like they addressed O-line in a major way. They desperately needed to do that. And that's why I'm going to put them up in A tier. Even with keeping Max Crosby, they'd still be fine. So we'll see what happens out of that. Let's see if they make another trade. All right, moving on. We got the Chargers now. I mean, I think they did pretty well here overall. Not great, but I mean, they bring in some O-line. Cole Strange, Tyler Biadasz. I don't hate the Keaton Mitchell signing at all. In fact, I think it's pretty solid, good running back to bring in. And then they re-signed some players. I mean, Trey Pipkins is all right of a re-sign. Trevor Penning, I really just feel like they're trying to cover since, they traded something for him. They're trying to see if they can't get at least some value worthwhile out of him. And then Khalil Mack coming back is obviously really big too. Overall, I mean, I think it's pretty solid for the Chargers. And with the Chargers, I think I'm going to go ahead and place them up in, C or B. I think we'll probably go with B. I mean, I think that's solid overall. And as far as the Rams now that we're going to go to, they get Trent McDuffie. That's huge for them. It addresses one of their weaker points of their roster in a major way. Go out and get one of the better corners in the league. Also add Jalen Watson to help address it opposite of him. I mean, as far as corners, I feel like you're doing good. I mean, Emmanuel Forbes played well for you last year. I mean, I really just like their re-signs ads. I think even though this isn't a lot that they did, they addressed things in a major way and went out and really made a play for one of the better corners. I love this offseason so far for the Rams. They haven't had to do a ton because what they have done has been pretty big and impactful. So, of course, that means the Rams, for me, are actually having a S-tier offseason. So you could argue A just because they haven't done a ton, but I think the little they have done is enough, and I am putting them below the Panthers. I'm trying to at least mostly order this. So I think they're having a little bit worse just because the Panthers have addressed a lot of needs, even if the Rams don't have as much. The Rams also haven't added much depth, and the Panthers have worked on it a little bit. So I'll go ahead and go with the Rams and S here, but second behind the Panthers. All right, so with the Dolphins here, they obviously are kind of in this mode where they're trying to move on from a lot of people and really settle into, hey, we're hard rebuilding. I think it's what they needed to do. As far as what they've added, I don't really love many of their additions. Obviously, adding Malik Willis and getting rid of Tua is pretty big, but yeah. Overall, I mean, it's like not great, but it's just doing what they realistically need to do. Like, I'm tempted to put them up in B tier just because, it's what they've really needed to do as a team this offseason. They know Tua experiment is done. I think they just got to do it on. So I'll actually go ahead and keep them at B tier. And then for the Vikings, I feel that Kyler Murray getting added here is definitely interesting. They absolutely needed to add somebody to compete with J.J. McCarthy for the starting spot. Then they released Harrison Smith, which I know he can still come back, and then some of these other releases, they just kind of make sense. Free up some cap with some aging players here that just aren't at the top of their game anymore. I do like bringing Ivan Pace and Eric Wilson back. Overall, I think they're making the few moves they are making are good moves. There just isn't a ton to go off here. I do think the whole quarterback situation is going to be interesting. I don't think it should just be like wrote in that Kyler's starting. I mean, obviously it's going to be a heavy consideration, and I think the more likely outcome. But realistically, they're going to at least do their due diligence and have a proper quarterback competition with their former first-round pick. But all that being said, I'm going to throw the Vikings probably in B, just because the move they made is good. They needed to add Kyler. They've freed up some cap space by cutting old players that aren't at the same point they really need to be. All right, and here we have the Patriots. They sent their center, Garrett Bradbury, to the Chicago for a fifth. I honestly don't fully understand why they do that. I mean, I get they're probably looking to upgrade on the O-line. They brought in Elijah Vera Tucker, which I do really like that signing. Then obviously Romeo Doubs and Kevin Byard. Those are really the big ones in my mind. Like, those are the biggest of these three. Draymond Jones, I like the ad for him. Overall, it's honestly not a bad offseason like a lot of the guys they're bringing in. Obviously, with everything going on with Stephon Diggs, they had to cut him. Bringing in Romeo Doubs it's interesting. I think there's definitely some potential for that to work out, but I don't think Romeo Doubs is going to be like a crazy number one next year. I don't think he's really going to be insane. I'm not exactly sure what the receiver room is going to end up like here with the Patriots, but that's not really a conversation for right now. I do like a lot of these moves, though. So with that being said, I'm probably putting them in B tier. I just don't think I can justify much higher than that, just because they had to release Diggs, and then as much as that's probably the right play, what they brought in I don't think really is anything huge for a team that was just in a Super Bowl, and then they trade away their center. Overall, though, yeah, B tier for the Patriots. All right, next up we have the Saints here. We already talked about that trade a little bit when we were on the Texans. The big signings here, Travis Etienne. I mean, Alvin Kamara is just aging at this point. Getting Etienne in, I think, is a very nice addition for the Saints. Honestly, I think it'll fit their scheme pretty well, fit into their role. I like that for the Saints. I also like Caden Ellis signing. I mean, Demario Davis leaving for the Jets, adding him seems pretty nice. And then, I mean, the other signings are just kind of solid, really. All right, and then with the Saints here, I think I'm going to throw them up in the Beats here. They didn't do a lot, but what they did do, I honestly do like a lot for them. I mean, getting ETN, I think, will really help their offense. And, yeah. All right, now on to the Giants. I feel like they've made a ton of signings. Obviously, a lot of former Ravens with Harbaugh going there, like likely Adarius Washington, Patrick Ricard even. I also like their other receiver signings. I like, I mean, even Jason Sanders a nice pickup. I mean, Greg Newsome's worth a shot. He didn't play well last year, really, from what I've heard overall. But I think it's worth a shot for the Giants. I mean, they just lost Cordell Flott, right? So, I overall, I think they've made some good additions. Their re-signings, oh yeah, I do need to mention Tremaine Edmonds, because they let go of Bobby Okereke, brought in Tremaine Edmonds, and then also re-signed Micah McFadden. So I think their linebackers are still in a pretty good spot. And then re-signed Gunnar Olszewski, which is good for their special teams, of course. Chris Manhertz, yeah. Overall, I think the Giants have had a pretty solid offseason. I feel like a lot of those signings are just like a projection guys or, taking swings. But that isn't really a bad thing for the Giants to be doing right now. So, with all that being said, I think I'm going to place the Giants in high B or low A. I'm not too sure, but like I said, I like all of their signings, really. I think overall, I would probably want to put them in A tier. All right, moving on, we have the Jets. And as far as the Jets go, I mean, honestly, this Geno Smith trade, the only reason I don't like it as a ton is just because it's kind of weird for the timeline of the Jets right now. Oh, but at the same time, they need somebody to be their quarterback, and I feel like Geno Smith is not that bad of an option for what's out there. Might be a bit expensive, but only trading back 20 spots and getting a potential option to start at quarterback, I don't really think is that bad of a deal. The Minka trade, I don't know about really. I don't feel like it's that good of a move for the Jets right now, but I get wanting to try to make some sort of progress into being a solid team again. And then for the Jets, trading away Jermaine Johnson for Tavondre Sweat, I honestly like that for him. Gets you a younger, more run-stopping defensive tackle for an edge rusher you probably weren't going to have much longer anyway. I think that's a very good move for the Jets overall. Their signings, I don't love a lot of them just because a lot of it's veterans coming in, and that's not really going to help them out too much long-term by the time they actually are going to be competitive overall. But someone like Nashawn Wright, I'm fine with the addition of. Joseph Asai is decent, I guess. Dylan Parham kind of bringing in, I don't hate either. It gives you some option at guard. Just a lot of like okay moves or moves that I'm like, it makes sense, but not necessarily for the timeline the Jets are really on right now. So for the Jets, we're going to go ahead and put them probably C tier. Like I said, I don't honestly hate a lot of the moves they made. It just doesn't feel like it makes sense for the Jets with where they're at right now as a team. All right, moving on to the Eagles. I mean, they did spend a lot to get Jordan Davis back. Adding Arnold Ebiketie, I don't hate bringing in somebody after losing Chubb and Uche. I mean, I give something off the edge. And then I do really like the Tariq Woolen signing, pairing him especially with also bringing in Jonathan Jones. I mean, it really just kind of feels like they're really trying to address their third corner spot that's been a little bit of an issue. And if Tariq Woolen really works out with them, that's going to be a, honestly, huge pickup. It's a bit of a risk because, Tariq Woolen does have some issues sometimes with coverage or, having discipline issues with penalties and stuff. So we'll see, but if it works out, this Eagles secondary is going to be extremely good next season. And we're going to move the Eagles up into, I think an A or B. I think I'm probably going to go B. I mean, I just feel like there maybe could be some more re-signs you get done. Maybe some more things you actually work to get done. I mean, you lost Reed Blankenship and didn't really address that yet. Maybe they will in the draft, but overall, still solid free agency for sure. Definitely a lot of upside to getting Tariq Woolen. But yeah, we'll move them to B tier for now. Now I'm going to move on to the Steelers. I feel like they have honestly had a really under-the-radar great offseason so far. I mean, getting Pittman for just a pick swap and then immediately extending them, I don't think is bad at all. I mean, that's a major upgrade over anything else you've had at wide receiver last season, other than DK, obviously. I mean, depends on how you view them comparatively to each other. I feel like Rico Dowdle, Jamel Dean, and Jaquan Brisker are all very good adds to that roster as well. I feel like a lot of these ads and re-signs and stuff are really like pointing towards them believing they'll have Aaron Rodgers back. I don't pay attention to the whole saga anymore. It feels like every offseason it's a whole, is he going to retire, is he not? But, I mean, these moves make me think the Steelers believe he'd be coming back, or they have some idea of what they want to do at quarterback next season. But yeah, overall, I honestly like the moves they've been making this offseason. Good re-signs too, bringing Cameron Hayward back, Asante Samuel. I don't know exactly how well he played, but I mean, it gives options at corner at least with Jalen Ramsey there, of course, too already. Even if they're playing him at safety again, we'll see what they do. All right, and for the Steelers, I'm definitely thinking A or S. I mean, it'd be, I honestly think I'm going to go low S. I think they're one of the best three off seasons so far, and I'm gonna place them right there. I mean, like I said, I just really like their moves. I think it's better than any of those teams in A tier, and I think it's very solid for both sides of the ball for them, really. All right, moving on to the 49ers. They obviously traded that third round pick for Osa Odozigwa, and also made some nice additions too. Mike Evans, it's a little bit weird on the contract. I mean, they give him a 3-year deal. I don't know all the details to it, so I don't know if it's really a 3-year or they have void years on it. Bringing Dre Greenlaw back, I don't mind at all. And then Nate Hobbs, I mean, I probably would have liked it more a season ago, but I don't necessarily hate the signing at all. Then they also make some solid re-signs, bringing Jake Tonez and Eddie Pinheiro back as well. I mean, I think overall it's a pretty decent offseason. Evans is a good addition, obviously. It's just he's clearly slowing down a little bit, and they gave him a multi-year deal. So we'll see how it pans out, though. That being said, though, I mean, they still got Mike Evans on their team. They still improved this offseason for sure. I feel like, anyway. We'll see what they do with Brandon Ayuk. They're probably just going to wait as long as they can to trade him. But, yeah, I think this is a pretty solid B-tier offseason. I'll put him right in between the Eagles and Cowboys here, probably. Just, I like a lot of their re-signs. I feel like they made a lot of decent moves. And, yeah, pretty solid free agency period for them so far. All right, moving on. We got the Seahawks. I feel like it's been just one of those kind of standard after Super Bowl off seasons. A lot of their players going elsewhere, but they do bring back Rashid Shaheed. They do bring back a few other players like Jake Bobo on the tender. Bringing back Drake Thomas is big. I think they've done some good re-signs, all things considered. Didn't overpay to get their guys back, but they're also not doing the most with the cap space they're saving by doing that. I mean, signing Emmanuel Wilson's probably good to probably be the secondary back behind Zach Charbonnet, maybe even third. I don't know exactly what their plan is. And then Rodney Thomas, I mean, if he does play, I think he could surprise some people. I honestly thought he was pretty solid at minimum as like a spot starter. Maybe he could even be a starter. We'll see exactly how they end up viewing him and what they do there with Rodney Thomas. Overall, I think this is a firm C tier offseason. I don't think it's anything solid, but I don't think they did anything bad or have like neglected anywhere enough that it should be any lower than C. All right, on to the Buccaneers. I don't know how to feel about this. I mean, Kenneth Gainwell's fine to add, but you already had some good running backs. Alex Anzalone, you can't be mad about adding him. I don't really love any of the defensive ends. Jake Browning as your new backup, that didn't go well for the Bengals when he was their backup last season. I know he had that stretch a couple seasons ago where he played well, so I don't know how I feel about that. And then re-signing K-Dot, and I mean, it makes sense. But yeah, I feel like it's still kind of underwhelming, honestly, as an offseason for the Buccaneers here. So that being said, I think we're going to place the Buccaneers into C, or I don't know. Probably C tier. Could maybe even argue D. But yeah, like I said, it just doesn't feel like they addressed a lot of the things they needed. But yeah, you know what? Just put it in D. It's definitely a high end of D off season, but it feels very underwhelming for a very winnable division. Actually, looking it over one more time, it's better than anything in D tier. We're going to go ahead and pop it back and see. All right, looking at the Titans here, honestly, I don't know how to feel. Also, first things first, this new logo is so much worse than their last one. I don't know why they were looking to change it right now. I guess I get it, but yeah. Anyways, onto the actual free agency. I still think the Jets won this trade. I mean, I don't hate getting an edge rusher if you're the Titans, but I feel like T'Vondre Sweat is a pretty solid young piece. Solomon Thomas trade is nothing too major, obviously. And then as far as their actual free agency ads, I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson's solid. Cordell Flott, I mean, I do feel like they overpaid a little bit, but they were going to have to get any of them. Joshua Williams is a fine corner. Tony Adams is all right. I mean, I feel like they just made a lot of decent signings. They did release L'Jarius Sneed, which is a good thing for them. And then, I mean, Wood Cushenberry and Xavier Woods as well. Just kind of clear up some cap space from those veteran pieces that were on a bad roster last year. Try to get younger, try to get better pieces they can. I mean, I do like them signing a bunch of different players, at least give them a shot here. Because you got to try things if you're going to get better than the previous season. But yeah, we're going to go ahead. We'll take the Titans and probably put them in C. They definitely made some good moves, but I feel like a lot of them, they're either overpaid. I mean, they made a trade that I feel was a bit questionable. All right, and lastly, we have the Commanders. I mean, I honestly like a lot of their signings. I do like Leo Chenal. I do like Chiga Kwanko with whatever's going on with Zach Ertz. I mean, that was a tough injury last year. We'll see how he comes back or if he does properly from that. Nick Cross, I feel like was just a fit. Rashad White, I mean, Bill Krosky, Matt was fun, but they needed something, and plus, I don't think Austin Eckler's going to be looking too great off that injury, but you don't know. So having that Rashad White as a receiving back, if nothing else, is definitely nice. Could also look for a draft for another back for the Commanders. You really don't know how they're going to go. Odafe Owe, I really feel like they overpaid for one season that was pretty good. So, yeah, overall, I mean, I feel like they made some decent moves. Their re-signs, I feel like they went a little bit overboard with who all they re-signed, especially when it comes to offensive line, but I do like bringing back Laramie Tunsil. And then I also like re-signing Traylon Burks, considering he was starting to show some flashes last year. Worth to see if you actually can get something out of him. And we're going to put the Commanders into B tier, I think. I like a lot of their moves. I think, like I said, I think they went a little bit overboard on their re-signs, but overall, solid offseason. Get rid of Marshawn Lattimore to free up cap, and this is what the tier list is looking like. I'd say I didn't want to put any F tier teams. If I was going to move one down, it probably would be the Colts or Jags, obviously. But I really don't think there's been any team that's had that horrendous of an offseason where it's like, okay, they need to go all the way down. I do feel like there is a lot of things that can move around here a little bit. I mean, the Vikings, for example, depends on how you feel about Kyler Murray. The Panthers are my favorite just because I feel like they did a lot of addressing of their needs. They went out, spent money they had to actually shore up their defense, get some help all over their roster. The Ravens, really, Trey Hendrickson's doing a lot of heavy lifting there. But yeah, overall, let me know what you agree with. Let me know what you disagree with. And I think this is just kind of where I'm at right now. I mean, obviously, we'll come back, and none of this will look right at all, depending on how well some of these free agents perform for their new teams. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys all in the next one.